Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Magdalena. I'm the MD Europe and VP Commercial at Light & Wonder iGaming, and today I'll be talking to you about IP and its use within the gaming industry, sharing a lot of our experiences as Light & Wonder over the years, from some successes, some challenges, talking a little bit about homegrown IP, and of course, closing off with some predictions. Before we kick off, thank you so much to the organizers and for the very insightful panels so far today. Now, first, before we delve into it, let's talk a little bit about third-party IP history ever. So the first time that third-party IP was ever used and licensed. And that goes back to when George Lucas struck a deal in 1977 for the use of Star Wars characters and vehicles for the production of toys. This was a deal struck with Kenner Products, and it revolutionized the franchise and film industry forever. Now, nearly 50 years on, we have a plethora of brands being licensed across a multitude of industries. For example, film, social apps, the fashion industry, consumer products, sports apparel, and of course, land-based and online casino is no different. Looking at a few examples here above, we can talk a little bit about the Barbie movie, where Mattel licensed the Barbie franchise to produce a movie. The movie made $2 billion in revenue, and additionally, in the box office, and additionally boosted Barbie sales by nearly 14%. Then, looking at the license from Hasbro, licensing the brand Monopoly to Scoplay, this is said to be one of the most successful licenses of a brand ever, as the game cleared $2 billion in revenue in less than a year. Although they do say that they spend nearly a third of that on advertising, and it is far above a healthy ratio, which is usually between 10 and 50% of revenue to advertising. Then we can look at the deal between Marvel and Adidas, where Adidas has gotten a license from Marvel, which allowed it to reach audiences, much younger audiences, and really appeal to a fan base all over the world. In addition to that, this deal was exceptional because it allowed them to kind of break the barriers and create a sort of bridge between the entertainment industry and access fans, also bringing them into the sports industry and to the brand. And now finally, we talk about casino, where I highlight our latest deal from Light & Wonder, where we struck a deal with global streaming platform Netflix. And we kicked off with brands Squid Game, launching the game a little bit earlier this year already, and this with the land-based game soon hitting the land-based casino floors globally. So we talked about when we first saw IP leveraged and used in any industry, and now let's talk about the first time that IP, third-party IP, was ever used in the casino industry. So when a lot of people think of Light & Wonder today, they think of some strong connotation to some very big brands out there. And there's very good reason for that. Nearly 30 years ago, we struck our very first partnership with Monopoly. And our first ever branded slot made it to the casino floor in 1998. This was a perfect match, as the brand Monopoly lent itself very well to gaming. The game was all about winning money, beating other people, having a competitive spirit, and that worked very well. There was a lot to play with, and that flowed very naturally into slot gameplay that we could then leverage and utilize. Now, nearly 30 years on, we've made nearly 100 slots that are used in both land-based and online. But now I must pay tribute to one of our fellow rivals, IGT, who actually was the first land-based company to ever put a brand on the casino floor. This was using the brand Wheel of Fortune. This was another perfect match, as the brand lent itself very well into the slot space. The golden wheel, the big capability to win lots of money, as you could see on TV. And IGT perfectly matched that with a jackpot capability. Of course, Wheel of Fortune continued to be regularly advertised on TV, and there was a strong resonance for players with how you can win money on the game show and a big attraction to winning money and finding that same experience on the land-based casino floor. And now, today, in the gaming industry, there are dozens and probably hundreds of brands that have been brought into the casino space. Light & Wonder has an array of partnerships that we've fostered and forged over the years with creating products that do the brands justice. Over time, a lot of these partnerships have also grown into the online space. I also highlight a few brands here by other suppliers that have been brought into the space, such as Hell's Kitchen by NetEnt, Gladiator by Playtech, TED and Goonies by Blueprint, Jurassic Park, and Game of Thrones by Microgaming, and also Walking Dead by Aristocrat. So a lot of brands over the years have been ported and are successfully used in the gaming industry today. Now, as you embark on selecting that perfect brand, there's a bit of an R&D that you need to do, a bit of investigation and questions you should be asking yourself to make sure you secure that perfect brand. So, number one, does the brand have perceived value? And is that value going to transcend to my network of players? Does it have a great reputation that will bring merit to your brand and your company? Number two, is the brand relevant? Is there an emotional connection that has been established to that brand with audiences, and will it come with an instant audience? For example, we've had, is it too similar, too attractive to a younger demographic, or is it perhaps too niche? So we've had cases, for example, when we launched Squid Game, that there was an operator that didn't want to overly promote the game because they felt that it appealed to, that because the main character was a gambler, and they did not like that connotation. Also, with Wonka, for example, we did have some operators that felt it was too appealing to a younger demographic and also chose not to overly promote it. So these are all important questions to ask yourself as you're embarking on looking for that perfect brand. Number three, can you make ends? Does the mechanic lend itself well to gaming? So we talked about Wheel of Fortune, we talked about Monopoly. It's all about winning money. There's a lot to play with there. In order to create that perfect game and perfect slot, that's a very important consideration. And finally, number four, can you make the commercial terms meet? The brands are going to have exceptionally high standards. They're in it to make money. They're going to be asking for very high minimum revenue guarantees. And you, on the other side, have to be able to commit comfortably to those minimum revenue guarantees and also make sure that this can work for your revenue forecast and you can get a healthy return. Then on the flip side, when securing IP, the other question is, what are the brands looking for? So, number one, they're looking for great distribution and strong financial forecast. At Light & Wonder, first talking about our online network, we're live in 40 regulated markets, across 550 brands, and with 5 billion game rounds monthly. In addition to that, when we bring in our land-based family and also our social casino, we can come and drive a very hard bargain with the brands, and that no doubt has helped us over the years. Number two is trust in the company. You want to make sure that the brand will trust you. Trust is very important because they need to ensure that you'll play by the rules. You won't tarnish their brand's reputation. You won't hinder their legacy in any way. And you will do a production at the end of the day that they feel will do it brand justice. And finally, number three is successfully integrating that brand into a proper product and into your global portfolio, and making sure that you have a track record already to showcase previous successes. Additionally, when you are close to finally succeeding with that brand, or you've already closed that brand, your aim should be to truly maximizing that revenue as much as possible, widening the reach of the deal that you've just closed, and ensuring that you could continue to maximize your return. So on social casino, what we can offer is 2.2 million active daily users. We have global partnerships for land-based casino, and we, of course, aim to deploy all branded casino slots to the maximum distribution of all our global casinos. and through our Infinity platform, where we have, in 2023, 83 billion wagered through our platform. But we look also to widen that distribution, as we have done, for example, with Monopoly Slingo, where Gaming Realms has sub-licensed the brand and created a Slingo game. Additionally, Monopoly Casino, where Bally's is sub-licensing and creating a B2C casino. So these are all ways to effectively widen and maximize the revenue. Now, sourcing and working with the brands, of course, I'd be lying if I'd say it's a stroll in the park. There are some challenges. So number one, gambling affiliation. When you are thinking about that perfect brand that you want to work with, you have to first be ready to expect that a lot of them might not want to be affiliated to gambling, okay? So that by default puts a lot of brands that you might want to work with out of your reach. The second component, creative freedom. So as you are licensing from a third party, that third party is going to be involved throughout the process every step of the way, okay? That might often stifle innovation as they are involved in the creative direction that you're taking the product. Production cost and quality, the brands have very high expectations. And of course, the branded content that you do has to be your best work. You simply cannot jeopardize the license by doing a poor production. And this often means that the production value is very costly. Market restrictions. In iGaming, as was discussed on the previous panel, there are gray, light gray, dark gray, and black markets that a lot of online operators can benefit from. But when you're working with brands, they can be very precious about the territories where they are okay and not okay to deploy their games. And finally, sign-off process. You do have the brands involved with the sign-off process. Some are easier to work with than others, but this can add time in general to your general development cycles. Okay, so we talked a lot about third-party IP. Let's talk very briefly about in-house IP and what we at Light & Wonder call as homegrown IP. As a matter of fact, at Light & Wonder, we have thousands of registered trademarks. And some of our most successful games and franchises are our homegrown IP, that we continue to build the legacy stronger year after year as the appetite grows and we roll out more games. In addition to that, if you want to go down this route, then you have to be ready to have big teams that manage trademarks and additionally are out there protecting our IP and policing against infringements. So looking quickly at some of the benefits and the successes, so a few examples here. The first example is talking about general penetration. So looking at the first two brands, Squid Game and World of Wonka that we've rolled out most recently, we've had 95% network penetration in our EMEA region. So naturally, a lot of the operators and network want to associate themselves with these multi-billion-dollar brands that you have brought. I'd say that 5% gap is usually where there was a mismatch between the brand and the target market where the operator is working, or potentially, let's say, a commercial variance because branded games do come at a higher cost. Of course, you do see high success in traffic. So looking at first 30 days in general of branded content, you see 75% more traffic than on an average release. And of course, that's once again because of the recognition and the trust from that brand. Inside land-based casinos, when you have newbies walking the floor that might have never played a slot potentially, 80% of the work is done from the brand. Removing the intimidation, seeing something where there's familiarity, and then developing a curiosity to see if that production is going to do justice to your favorite brand. And finally, the boundless marketing push. So for all of the reasons we've just mentioned, there is a recognition, there is an instant audience, there is legacy in that brand and value, and that is a gift for the network to utilize that and bring the maximum players you can. And for that, the games are frequently used in all sorts of campaigns, site takeovers, etc. Okay? So future predictions on third-party IP use. in the industry. So my prediction is that it's definitely here to stay. Here are a few summary points as to why. Number one, you get guaranteed clicks. So in an industry, I think the statistic sits at 20 to 30 new games globally that hit the market. The fight for shelf space is fierce, and a brand with recognition can truly act as a differentiator and traffic magnet. Number two, the new player acquisition. We gave the example of the land-based casino. When there's newbies walking the floor, they're drawn to a brand that they recognize. And this goes the same for online casino as well. Number three is the Americas maturity. So one of the largest markets out there yet to fully mature. More and more states are coming online. And this is a market that responds exceptionally well to ambassadors, celebrities, and of course, brands. Number four, entertainment production. So as long as there's audiences out there that want to be entertained and want to develop emotional connections with products and brands, there will be companies out there that will be upping their game day after day to satisfy us and bring audiences. And so as long as we have new fantastic brands coming into the market, then of course there will always be great brands to leverage and secure. And the final point around money talking, obviously, the brand owners, the IP owners are going to be wanting to maximize the lifetime value of their IP, wanting to continue to maximize returns on their brand, even past the brand's prime. So as long as there's buyers and sellers, and there's a value, then the market of using IP in gaming will continue to thrive. That's all from me, so thank you so much, and I'm around for the rest of the day if anyone wants to talk more about IP. But yeah, thank you so much for listening.